What's up, everybody? I am so excited for another episode of ranking weird music from video games, the weirdest music from video games. And of course, I decided to bring the king of weird, the composer of Hylics 2 with me, Chuck Salamone. What's up, Chuck?
Hello, hello.
So the game plan today is very similarly to the previous ranking video, but this time I also have Chuck with me. We're going to listen through each piece, talk about it afterwards, rank it from most weird to least weird, normal, I guess. Probably go off on some tangents, though we'll try to keep this kind of a tight experience. So I wanted to start off with one of your pieces. So I've heard one of the pieces from Hylics 2, but do you have one in mind, like off the top of your head? I told you not to plan anything. Do you have anything off the top of your mind that would be weird?
In terms of weirdness, things start to go off the rails at the end of like a piece like That's a Big Stick, which is like the decisive battle theme. It's not like a final boss battle, but you know, like a bossy type battle. It's a weird one.
Surprise dissonance there. Do you think that's weird? I don't think that's very weird.
I feel like that's like one of the weirder ones.
What makes that weird to you as the composer? Are you thinking like, let me make this piece weird?
At the end, I had reached this point of like exhaustion in my writing where I was just like, I'm gonna try and get this to sound like one of these sections from a Mr. Bungle self-title piece. You know, like just some weird sounding kind of amorphous chords in the background, letting the shimmer do the work.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it's not really difficult to follow because it's kind of just rocking back and forth between two chords. But what's going on in the background with like that guitar, like like there's this weird like polyrhythmic thing happening. There's weird layered stuff that I've talked about before with the fan base. That really like. I feel like that guitar line has kind of become iconic. That What I was doing was studying a lot of just like very bizarre implementation of music. Now, if anyone knows who I work with, Mason Lindroth, he's like, if I'm quote unquote the king of weird, he's more kingly
the emperor of weird
of being. Yeah, he's like the deity of weirdness. He's like a huge like John Waters fan. And just like a fan of anything that is just, you know, like just out there. And so I thought, let me try and sneak some like really weird kind of like that decision to do that with that melodic line is like, if you don't know about it, and the composer tells you about it, it might be like, whoa, that's a really weird decision. Why would you do that? And it's like, well, because I wanted to, like kind of implement this bizarre musical choice in there. Like the tempo and everything is just like, yeah, you're gonna die. but we're gonna feel really like sexy while doing it.
One thing that really came to my mind while listening to the piece is that it felt just like it was like super free flowing. The part that surprised me the most was when there was some dissonance suddenly where you were dropping down in the upper guitar or the melody there. And I was like, oh, like, because you did say that at that part, that was when things got kind of strange and bizarre.
Towards the very end, that final section is just like, also there's a lot going on in terms of the dynamic range of this piece. It takes you from like being really loud in the beginning, kind of not too loud, kind of brings it back in the verse. We're not fully dipped into something that could be considered like we're in piano or pianissimo now. We're chilling, but it's still present, and then it just hits you full force, and then it hits you with a secondary like aftershock. With that big slide line. Shout out to my brass slide for sounding really cool on all of those tracks. This thing has like been with me for more than half of my life, and I only just started using it like a few years ago for Hylics.
That's perfect because
it's like right there. Yeah.
For me, I don't know, man. Like that reminded me of like some like Hendrix or like some.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was particularly weird. No offense, obviously, no offense.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could give you some other ones that might be like. It might tick off your...
We'll have to revisit it for like another one. I mean, where would you rank this particular track in like...
I'm sure what you're going to show me is way weirder than that. But, one individual's weird is another individual's meh.
For me, that's a 5 out of 10 on the weird scale.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Where would you put it as the composer?
I've definitely written weirder. It has yet to be released. Also, at the time when I wrote this, my knowledge of like... how to compose within a specific like a DAW, because like all of that was done like on my iPhone.
Wow.
Like on GarageBand, which is why the compression sucks, the bass is too loud, everything about that mix like that I used to think sounded good would not pass anything. It just would not. I would not greenlight that now, but we all have to start
you grow
somewhere.
as you go,
And I find that that's another weird aspect of it is just the bass is just so loud in that piece. Like all I hear is bass in that.
See, I heard the melody. That's so interesting. I heard
weird
the
choice. Yeah, ranking it. Yeah, I mean, like 5 drunk 6.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting to hear your perspective on the piece, and like also it's true, like you grow as you go, and there's so many aspects to like you hear the bass too much, but the bass is like it's a part of the piece, so it's also like that whatever mistakes or things, those are actually like the things that make the piece kind of special, right?
I sort of like when you make something and you're like I don't really like this, but it's out in the wild and I can't take it back. You start to kind of like justify your decisions to yourself and like not change what the justification was, but try and find a deeper meaning in it, because sometimes you're making these decisions that are subconscious. And the initial mix before we released like put it in the game and put it out on the OST, the original mix, the bass wasn't loud enough. And so my ears probably at the time were either suffering from some type of fatigue or, like what I was listening to it on was experiencing some like sound governance or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when I finally listened to it in the car, when it launched, like, and compressions vary based on what you're listening to. So maybe it sounds good in GarageBand, like where I was listening to it from, and on my phone where I was listening to it from. But when you hear it on a streaming service, the compression's way different,
Totally
and
different.
It might just make the bass way too loud, which is fine.
Well, people clearly like it, so I mean, for all that,
I think so. That'd be funny if people were like, I like this game. I just think that song sucks. That song is terrible.
Is just ass. Yeah.
It's ass. Yeah, it's not good.
All right, next up, I want to check out R No Surge. Do you know anything about R No Surge or like the Artanelico series?
Nope.
I don't think that they're weird necessarily, but they're definitely an acquired taste, and I think I've acquired that taste, but there was a long time where I was like, what the anyway, this is our No Surge. It's like in a oh god, I'm sorry guys in the comment, this is like a binary code language, essentially like computer code. I think okay. Class : xsphere _ No Surge backspace period, and all of the songs are titled this way. It's wild. It's crazy.
Thank you so much.
Whatever.
Thank you so much.
It's okay. I'm a little speechless. For me, the twists and turns are really interesting. I definitely think that at times it's a bit jarring. Very sharp pivots.
Yes.
So, in terms of a contextual experience, I think it's probably perfect. But in terms of like a easy listening in the vehicle kind of situation, I'm not really sure that that's my cup of tea.
Do we know what kind of game this is?
I don't. I'm pretty sure it's like it's an RPG.
It's an RPG.
I don't know. I don't have much to go on. And someone in the comments, please. I mean,
part of me felt like this was like very Toho coded. You know, like bullet hell.
I don't think so.
Interesting.
It's like super anime style, very.
Oh,
very,
okay.
Like,
all
yeah.
right. So,
and I'm pretty sure. So Art and Elico, it's all about singing, and singing is like a thing that's done in the world, and it's like you know it's an important part of it. But like with this one, I mean, you know, it's interesting. On the one hand, I really love it, and I don't think it's that weird. But on the flip side, it's like.
It trained. So I felt like I was being trained during the entire listening experience. Like the video that we were using, like has like stuff happening on the screen, right? And so I was like, whoa, what is being said? It's all code. It's all like pseudo code. So like it's being written out phonetically. None of the lyrics are made up, and the points don't matter.
Yeah. When I said binary, I meant code. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I know what you meant. So to me, that in and of itself feeds into the concept of a cacophonous sound. Like if you can't fully understand what someone is saying, that already is kind of jarring, and it's not like it was vague. It's not like what's his name, Adriano Celentano's Prison Colon and Il Chusel or whatever the name of the song is. It's like if you Google search the Italian nonsense song, it's a song that like charted in like the 70s. And it's an Italian guy trying to sing
in English
the way that English speakers sound to non-English speakers.
I've heard that. Yeah,
and it's dope.
Yeah.
It's really, really sick. So when I hear something like this, it's like I immediately think of that. The other thing that I noticed too is that a lot of the vocal those big like lush grandiose choral sections put me back in like Nier Automata.
With the chaos language. Right?
Right. And then I don't know, some of the jump cuts, kind of really jarring, but I specifically liked the hard cuts into like we're foreshadowing this section that's going to happen way later. Like at the very beginning of the piece, it just goes into 3/4, and you're like, oh, please stay there, and it cuts out and says like, no, we're not ready for that yet, but that part will come later. And the part in 7 too was really nice.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me as well is that you're right, because it does feel like it's training us. Because in the beginning, you know, we've got the dee da da don da dee da da da, and then we have da dee da dee da dee da da. What's good, like, and that's that probably, you know, that very
it's the sound of you. Like, I was watching one of your streams the other night, and it's like it is the sound of like the hope and the despair and like the
clash of the two.
Right, like there are no winners. There are no winners in this fight. Like they're both losing something. Like there's an endless sacrifice coming from these two adversaries. Yeah, I think it's cool. It's definitely weird. The implementation, especially with the virtuosic strings. There was one section where the string player was like, "Yeah, just play whatever." You know, intonation be damned. Like literally make noises. At a certain point, there was like this wailing. This was it was just nuts. Like it felt really. There was an almond break section where, like, I mean, obviously you have to have that.
Like drum and bass almost.
Yeah, you just love that. You love to hear that when that happens. It's very well arranged too. You know, like it could have gone. That could have gone like. That could have gone terribly, but I was intrigued the entire time. And I think when you're writing something like that, it's hard to, I mean, obviously not everybody has an ear for that type of thing, but, you know, if you're willing to be ambitious and listen to music like that, and just kind of like listen with a little bit more of an open mind, you might find sections that you really enjoy, and then you might find
that very powerful.
That the flow of it is extremely powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, had you ever heard anything like this, Our No Surge or Arch and Ellico style?
I've never heard anything about that game or the music from that game, so that was like, you know, my virgin ears, you know. Yeah. But it very, you know, it's impressive, like that type of, and also the length, like the scale of that type of song. Yeah. The way I write music is like the longest loop that I've written for an RPG, a JRPG specifically, is like 3 minutes and something, because the nature of a JRPG, you're writing music and then you are allowing it to loop and allowing people to kind of like be consumed by the song, be enveloped by the song, so that they can not only perform the tasks that are needed to win the battle, or the tasks that are needed to solve the puzzle or get from point A to point B, but you're giving them a sense of like, you know, like they're discovering things about the music upon each listen, upon each loop. So they're feeling comforted by knowing that this section is coming up again, but my job is to write music that's interesting enough to make them feel like they're not sitting in a loop that's only X amount of time long.
Like it used to be anyway in the
right. I'm writing it more traditionally, whereas this is a 6.5 minute piece, and it only ever goes back to some sections where like it repeats, or like there's a foreshadowing section that comes back later.
There's like a purposeful repeat rather than just like a standard loop.
I love the sections where it goes into traditional Japanese, where it's almost like you're switching to a radio station where that is the signal that you're receiving now.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
So good.
So I mean, okay, for a first time listen, how weird is that on the weird scale to you?
That was pretty weird.
So,
but I mean, my weirdness scale is like I kind of equate weirdness with awesome. So like I would say, I don't know, that's definitely past 7. It's not a 9. So, I'd say like a 7.5.
No, 7.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's weird because.
Yes, it is.
I've heard this style enough where my ears have been acclimated, but I really struggled with Arch and Ellico and Our No Surge. When I first used to listen to it, I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, I was like, It's like the first time you hop on to like Richard Strauss or something where it's like, man, this shit sucks. But then you listen to it and you're like, oh, okay.
Dude, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wake up and I'm going to listen to this Nightmare Stockhausen, and I'm just going to listen to these horrible sounds of like choir boys just chanting. Yeah, I'm just going to listen to this terrible music that's going to, like, dude, I don't even smoke or drink or do any of that fun stuff anymore, but me taking a pedantic drag of my American spirit. Do you even listen to like...
Do you even listen to
Do you fuck with Schoenberg, dude? Do you fuck with the Second Viennese School?
You ever heard the Second Viennese School, man? You ever heard of Baird?
Dude, who's your favorite? Baird,
is it Webern or Schoenberg? Fucking Hanging Gardens, Opus 12, whatever.
Dude, what do you think it smelled like in the sunken cathedral?
You ever see Bluebeard's Castle, man? That opera's the best.
I bet that shit wasn't even blue. I bet it was more like indigo. These guys are fucking liars, dude.
You gotta think about retention, Chuck. We're over here going off on like...
Listen, it's very important what we just said. All that we just shared was very important. Our professors...
Yeah, man.
Very mad.
There was a professor, actually, I didn't have, but he was like, no one listens to Schoenberg in their car. I was like, yeah, no.
So I have a playlist in my car of, like, what is the worst thing that I can blast to... It's called Piss Everybody Off Around Me, the playlist. It's great. So there's, like, some Mr. Bungle. There's that one tune, Scatman. And I can only play it at max volume.
Reasonably.
Yeah. And this is not just for my benefit. It's for everybody else's benefit. I'm thinking of you when we're sitting in traffic.
You gotta listen to this shit.
You have
Yeah,
to.
it's important. As a cultural person, it's important. I agree with you. Slightly less. I would put that at a 7 because it is definitely jarring, but it's not. It's so weird that it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I guess
no. By the end, because in the beginning I was like, "Whoa, what's happening?"
Yeah.
It was way weirder, but then the scale of the weirdness came down.
It falls into the groove.
Once I was trained, yeah.
Let's do LSD Dream Emulator.
Oh hell yeah, dude! Love this game.
Okay, I don't know it. So you have
it's it is weird.
All right. Well, this
great.
It's called Long Tall Eyelash. That sounds horrible. All right.
Is that like Billie Eilish's cousin? Long Tall Eyelash.
Long Tall Eyelash. Eilish. Yeah. Long Tall Eilish. Oh my god. Fucking.
It's fine. Unreal.
I'm of two minds with this one. On the one hand, I absolutely hated it.
Dude, I like fucking Vibe City for me. That was amazing. That was so good.
On the other side, though, I'm like, wow, that's like really well thought out. And like,
So,
like
two things that immediately come to mind. Number one, Aphex Twin. That guy must fuck so hard with Richard D. James. Like, that. 'Cause I don't know if you ever listen to that guy.
No.
So, like, it is literally the definition of, like, acid-induced chaos. Like, your brain, like, this is your brain on drugs. Like, that's what this is. And I mean, just oddly enough, like, this music is in LSD emulator. I think one thing that I noticed is that it replicates the journey of a trip. Not that I would know anything about that. I think in general, like you know, the basic understanding when you're writing something like that, having been asked this question numerous times, like, dude, how much drugs do you do to like write this music? And it's like, the real answer is none. You know, like, because I have to work.
It's a job.
Yeah. It's zero. You have this like very calm, soothing kind of like. It's so weird that we were talking about Stockhausen before, because it's like it is that it's that weird sampling of those disembodied vocals that are kind of just bouncing around, panned around.
Let people know what Stockhausen is, just so that if they don't know.
So Stockhausen is like a precursor to electronic weird music. Like it's literally a precursor to EDM,
like mixing and matching. And
it's Stockhausen was sampling classical music, and basically like I think in the 50s.
I think so.
Yeah, it's like
I think that's when things kind of became.
Yeah, it's weird. It's post, so it's definitely postmodern establishment of serialism. And it's just like, let's just make weird, like it's very collage oriented.
This piece feels like that too.
So like the incremental entrance of each thing, or the staggered entries of each motive or motif, if you want to be like pinkies out.
It's motif.
Pinkies out, boys. Yeah. So I think that the staggered incremental entries of each of these ideas that are all like kind of working in tandem in this cacophonous conversation, like it's like you wandered your way into like the loudest, most chaotic room of
1,000,000%.
the house party, and you're just like you can't focus on
what, bro?
Like they don't know that I'm like. They don't know that I'm in LSD emulator right now.
There's kind of comedy in it, isn't there?
It's very comedic.
Yeah,
it's very funny.
When it started, I was like, "Oh, this isn't weird at all." And then all of a sudden, it's like, it
felt like when you get on Yoshi.
In
Super Mario World, like that.
Yeah. You're right about the collage aspect. I think that's really the best way to even analyze it. I mean, sure, we could like look at each like corner of it, but at the same time,
it could be that how this was written, there were a bunch of different ideas that were written separately, and then they were just clicked in.
What do you think it would happen if we just smash them together?
Yeah, what would this sound like? And I mean, and then the meaning of the piece is not inherently created but discovered, and I think the game itself is like an exploration game. You're exploring and discovering throughout the game. It's not like an action-based game. It's just a really that piece of music too, like you notice that it starts out very calm, and then it gets kind of like crazy and panicky and weird, and then like tapers off and then gets even weirder. Like it's just the trajectory of like being affected by LSD,
by drugs.
And then at the end it kind of just like
pitters out and the peaceful respite.
Yeah, like and now and we're back.
This reminds me. Have you ever seen Ariadne of Naxos? Richard Strauss. No. So a Strauss comedy where the first act is like everything goes to shit. The opera and the like serious opera, and then the like commedia troupe. There's no way to like, because they were both paired, to do it on the same day, so they just smash it together. So the second act is them putting on the show, and it's amazing, like play within a play, opera within an opera, and it's like the ultra serious, boring on purpose Ariadne of Naxos mixed in with the hilarious
with the buffa,
the buffo, like, and so you get like this incredible like mix match of like ho, ho, and then like,
yeah.
and it's awesome. I mean, it's exactly like this. I mean, to me, this is weird. This is like 10, I think, very close to a 10, probably a 10 on the weird scale for me.
I think that you know, like to tie it to like something modern or like musical theater or opera or whatever, like you would call it, the modern day equivalent of something that would kind of be in line with this is like, I don't know, Natasha Pierre, Great Comet of 1812. Like any if you've ever seen that musical or heard, it was ambitious. I saw it. It was awesome. Very misunderstood, and I think
My friend was in it.
What's up?
My friend was in it.
Oh yeah, dude. So you know, like it's a very cool whole collection of songs, and it's really a collage. Like there's no one type of music that is in there. It's just like whatever fits for the moment. And I mean, in this case, for this piece, it's whatever fits for the exact moment of the piece. The chaotic tendencies of the drums. I would say if you wanted to listen to anything that sounded like this, I mean, like, I don't know, classic Aphex Twin, like Window Licker. That's a great tune. That's like the one that everybody shows because of the bizarre music video. Richard D. James is an interesting guy. He has been around for a long time, and he's written music under seemingly an innumerable amount of pseudonyms. But he's really cool, and his style is unmistakable, and you can't walk away from it or unlearn it, unhear it. Once you're exposed to it all roads lead back to Richard G. James.
I mean, yeah, I appreciate how experimental it was, and you know, I mean, I don't necessarily think weird music. So there's different, because like weird music and bad music are two separate, you know.
Right. I mean, you know, like, and sometimes bad music is the goal, right? Like to write music that's like intentionally not good. Which I was trying to talk with someone about that recently, like how to make art that is diminished from what your knowledge and skill set currently is really difficult to tap into. Like it's tough. You
to
have
go
to
backwards. Yeah, no, you can't. I mean, it's
you could, like because then you start to sound like you're forcing it, and it's like, how do I do this? Like, how do
well, yeah, because you physically can't. I mean, like, yeah, I've had singers that have had to like sing worse for specific reasons, and it's actually really difficult for them. For the sake of the video, where do you rank this one out of 10?
I would say,
or the weirdest.
This is higher than the last one.
Yeah.
This is between 8 and 9. This is like an 8 for me.
An 8. Wow. Okay. Yeah. It's amazing how different, like, where we come from.
Yeah, I mean, it's just also like it's tough to rank these things too, because like, you know, if like, it could be that I, like, at least before the instrumentation that was being used, it was like, right, this is very much like a violin. These are vocals. It's being chopped up in this way. This was weird. Like the sounds that were being used were mostly electronic derived, but then, you know, yeah, the samples were bastardized in such a way that you really couldn't tell what the instrumentation was. It was just like it became its own instrument, each sound that was used in the collage.
Totally. Well, what about that makes it hard to rank?
I would say, like,
now, granted, rankings are completely arbitrary and they don't mean anything.
Yeah. Welcome to a ranking video where we're making these things up.
Making
and
shit up.
like we're gonna have to refine the rank. I think leaving something to mystery like that, like trying to get your instrument to sound like something completely different, which is why I like pedals so much. Is like I can mechanically alter the signal of a clean guitar to sound like, you know, a machine that's like dying, or like a person who is taking a, you know, thunder sheet and going making a weird noise, and it's just all my guitar, like, or something, or like having learned what each pedal does, I can configure that sound in a synthesis setting. And I feel like when you're working with sounds like this in a synthesizer or a sequencer or anything like that, you start to allow your listeners to develop a sense of, like, I know what this sound is and I have an idea of what this sound is, but the surprising thing is they can't know what the sound is, like because you've corrupted it. It could be that all of those sounds were like made from somebody coughing. We wouldn't know.
Yeah.
You know? I really like the fact that it
Had a
like
pulse.
that pulse, like that is like that thing almost gave me a panic attack. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's really hard to compare that to our No Surge because they're just not even remotely in the same wheelhouse, you know?
Yeah, not even.
So this is a game called Brutal Orchestra.
Oh yeah, Brutal Orchestra. Brutal Orchestra is like, I know the developer of this game, not personally, but this is a person who reached out to Mason and I in a couple of emails and was like asking us some questions, and like at the time, she was an aspiring developer, like making her own game, and like, you know, then there was this one game that she made. You're basically like a creature that's trying to avoid like getting eaten by like a deep sea thing.
Okay.
Really, really cool game. And then Hieronymus Bosch's Brutal Orchestra came out. And now when the weird JRPG characters are assembled, like the batter from Off and the guy from Lisa the Painful, or any of the Lisa games, Wayne, and now the character from Brutal Orchestra.
Oh, I see. So it's like the gang is all together.
It's Novak is the player character. Yeah. So dude, yeah, I have been following this developer for a while now, and she's awesome. Like, great for the JRPG community. Totally unashamedly weird, ambitious, not afraid to make like a game that is tough to look at. Like, and I have this fascination with Bosch too. I mean, I think most of us do. Where do you know about like the painting of all time?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Bosch has this painting. I joke about this with Mason all the time about like, yes, I was looking at the Garden of Earthly Delights again, and I didn't realize that there's an entire group of like naked men being abducted by aliens in the top right corner of this thing. Like, or these people are like, you know,
God.
No. Okay, so check this out. If you've never seen that piece before, you look at it and you're like, wow, this looks like a really pretty piece. And then you zoom in and you start looking, and it's like, wow, those people are literally ripping a strawberry person apart. So Bosch, in and of itself, like anything made by Bosch, is very weird.
Got it.
Extreme maximum levels of weirdness. So Brutal Orchestra it plays on that sort of thing.
I see.
Too.
Well, this is Vertigo, which is Revola's standing theme. So I'm curious to hear what this sounds like. Oh,
With that fade out,
man, what an amazing piece. I don't think that's weird at all. I mean,
short
it's
but
like
sweet. Dude, that doesn't even that's not even weird. That's delightful. It reminds me more of microtonal music. Like, there's this bedrock of like obviously very quarterly harmonic, like, makes perfect sense. And then when you layer this melody that's kind of like waving, kind of like being pitch bent out of but it makes perfect sense. Like it's the melody is out, but it's in. Like the purpose is that it's microtonal, I feel like. But also, like, vertigo is like, yeah, maybe if we weren't experiencing vertigo, we would be in.
We would be totally centered, yeah.
Yeah. I loved when, like, the kind of, like, bells came in towards the back half of the piece.
Oh, yes.
It provided like more of a melodic like footprint for the piece. I would listen to that and it would not be weird at all.
No, yeah, I would probably put that at like a, maybe just because of the way that it tilts, just because the pitch reverberates a little bit and it kind of does the microtonal dance. I'd probably put it like a, I don't know, maybe a 4 out of 10. Maybe
yeah, I would say, you know, it's like, and here's the thing is, like, just because it's not like, oh, it's not weird enough, it's not high on the you know, list. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, so the composer, Publio Delgado, it's an awesome piece. I also loved it's in 4/4. It's got that.
It just keeps you moving, right? I mean, that's the best part about it, is that it doesn't slow down ever, and it keeps this like sense of
well, it does that, and there's boom, God,
yeah.
Like it makes you think you're gonna get into this like
fight,
excitable thing, and then it's like, surprise, we're in halftime.
Yeah,
relax, dummy. You know, like, just
you can work out to this piece.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's like a 4.
I also like that I didn't have to like be like, oh, like it just wasn't overly jarring, which I kind of like. I like that it was like kind of, it was what it was, and it didn't like necessarily go off the rails or like pivot into a different direction. It kind of stayed uniformly the same, more or less, you know? And I think there's something to that too, like that sort of predictable nature of a piece. I think lets people really like sink into a piece, and I think like that's something that if we're creating weird music, I think sometimes it'd be really easy to be like, oh, I'm gonna throw this shit in there, but then it's like, oh, but that's actually gonna, you can't just throw the whole kitchen sink and expect it to like,
like there needs to be some level of like there needs to be a program for the music, like the programmatic tendency is usually to like for me personally, like coming from you know, writing, you know, music for JRPGs like this game, also, like, can I just shout out the developer?
Of course you can.
Be like, hi Talia, hello. We're reviewing music from your game. It's a JRPG, so it can be weird, but it doesn't have to be like so weird. Like, people really liked Hylics 1 because Mason was making music like that, like the drums that he was adding in Messy Song, which is the music from Hylics 1, the typical battle theme music. The drums are disembodied from everything, because Mason recorded stuff not to a click at all, layered that, took this other thing from here,
so it's just like
duct taped that,
yeah,
took chewing gum and masking tape and put the drums on, and then tied the whole thing up with like paper clips, and was like, here's the piece, here's the music. And like, the game, it works for the game perfectly. Something like this, it gives you a sense of like the program is that you're supposed to be experiencing unstable footing, vertigo.
Right.
That melody is not, we don't have access to that, the true nature of that melody without the pitch bending. I'd be interested to see what the MIDI is, of like what the actual pitches are and how pitch bent everything is, because maybe the true melody is hidden in there, or maybe it was written to just be amorphous, and that the pitch bending is the part of the melody. Like,
it definitely works either way. I mean, I really like the pitch bending.
It's so fun.
Let's check out Sonic Rush of all things. Now, I'm kind of hesitant about this, but let's see. This is Villanova from Sonic Rush. It's definitely the most different Sonic song I've ever heard. Now is it weird?
If you've played Sonic, like in that era of Sonic, that is like, yeah, okay, that's to be expected.
It's definitely quirky, but it almost feels like it's interesting. So on the one hand, it kind of feels like that whoop 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 whoop. It's interesting because it almost sounds like a muted / like sound changed saxophone.
It's basically a sax or a trumpet with a mute. Yeah.
Yep. And then put through like a filter.
Yep. With a ton of reverb and a ton of analog delay.
Yeah. It sounds like an animal. It sounds like some sort of like a howler monkey or something,
This is what I was saying before is like, like the instrument is meant to sound like something else, but like if you can say like, oh yeah, they got the instrument to sound like this, but you still kind of know what the instrument is, that's fun. Where it's like, I don't know what instrument that is because it's been like changed and bastardized so much. Like there's no way that anyone can know.
Yeah.
Then that's like, that's supremely weird. This was just like, dude, this was like a jazz piece.
Yeah.
It goes through a 1-4-5 blues chord progression, like for the entire main thing, and then the chorus is just a circle of fifths chord progression. Boom, 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 boom.
See, it's nice having a composer on because like all that stuff. Like, I mean, I know all that stuff, but like to try to apply it, I'm always so blown away by somebody who's like, "Oh, I love the 6th chord here, the D major 7." I'm like, "How the fuck? How do you know that?"
Yeah,
like you can't just hear G majors.
So there was a time when I like during my schooling where I was like, "Fuck this! I'm never gonna need this. I'm never gonna use this." And now like it's all that I use. It's like, oh shit, they were right. Yeah, it's great. It's great to hear a piece of music like that and just be able to immediately assign the correct nomenclature for it. Really typical. And I mean, that's not to say like, oh, it's knowable and it's predictable
you can
and
learn
therefore
it.
It's bad. It's not bad. The fact that it's using this format and that I can immediately adhere to it and know it means that it's learnable and it's understandable, palatable, and more easily replicated. Like somebody can take from that and be inspired by it and make something that is derivative of it.
Around the beginning of my YouTube career, I had a lot of people being like, well, why would I trust an opera singer? And it's like, I mean, you can't when it comes to notes and structure, but you can when it comes to the emotions or to like describing a piece. Or
which
like,
is something that I notice that you have done in your videos is you delve into like what the emotion is of a section and what the not even speculative, but like from again like a programmatic standpoint, like what is the composer trying to make us feel here? What are they trying to invoke? What is the picture? What is the word painting that's being implemented here for the listener?
That's because there's two sides to every coin, and in terms of music, it's both sides. No composer is like, let me just.
There's a reason like for everything like if you're just writing like with no reason at all. Like,
I mean, just use AI then. I mean, don't even bother.
Yeah, well, some people.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think AI music is good for is cranking out those stupid tunes where it's like ridiculous music where like my arms are just fucking stuck like this now, like that thing, or like I've got first date farts. This girl is singing about like I'm on a first date with someone and now I have to fart.
So and memes.
It's like so memes basically. Yeah, nothing like I don't know. When I listen to something like this, my education is validated. I feel like when I am able to sit and immediately know exactly what's going on with the piece, do a soft analysis, which a soft analysis leads to a deeper and more meaningful hard analysis.
Can you talk about this? Because I actually I haven't heard the term soft analysis in a very long time, and I just realized that's what I do half the time. Plus, soft then eventually a hard analysis.
Like really, really simple stuff. Like what is the instrumentation of the piece?
Yeah, like a glossing.
What is the instrumentation of the piece? What is the tempo of the piece? What's the mood? What's the color? What's the tone and timbre? Once you start getting into like, all right, this section is implementing these chords in this way.
The strings go up here, which probably signifies this, or
right. that's when you start to get into hard analysis territory.
Right.
Just being like, yeah, this is a jazz piece. Like, there's an entire percussive element to that where it's just like a girl going like, yeah, ooh, in the background. And then it's just like at the end, that's the last thing you hear. It's like this thing was in the piece the whole time, and now you hear it. Also, there's kind of like this Euro pop, like the like that's the drums there really make it fun. Electro swing is a thing that came to mind.
Incredible stuff, electro swing.
Yeah, you get into this element of like, well, this sounds familiar, but how are we going to make it not familiar? Obviously, the weird MIDI sounding orchestra hits the bow 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 bow, like that sort of thing is kind of jarring and doesn't really fit in the piece to me personally. It might make more sense for it to be like, I'm trying to find meaning in like what it would sound like with a live band. So like that would probably be horn hits. Whereas like, you know, another instrument has the melody. Maybe it's like a trumpet, you know, using a mute, Harmon mute or plunger mute or something. You start to get into stuff like that where you're trying to implement your knowledge of the piece with your knowledge of other pieces that sound like it. And that's like hard analysis. Soft analysis is what are these sounds? What is happening? What is this piece making me feel? And then hard analysis is like, here's an entire chart of what each of these sections is. You know, like
the individual instrumentation.
What's the format? Is it like an A section and then a B section, or is it a main A section, B section? Like it's more of like the organization element of it, and then studying like the Roman numeral style chords of that. And I mean, which is why it's like, oh yeah, the chorus is just a circle of fifths chord progression. Like it makes perfect sense. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. And to a layman, it'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. But it's like, that's what it is. Yeah. You know, it's like you put red and blue together and you make purple. You know, it's this is a factual statement, and that is a hill that I will die on. Yeah.
Do you think that this is I don't find this particularly weird. I think this is
like barely a 2 out of 10 on weird.
Okay, so for you it's a 2 out of 10. For me it's a 3 out of 10. Yeah. Nice. In terms of characterization, it's interesting how we get like the animal cry mixed in with like the forward momentum of Sonic mixed in with the energy of, you know, there is some shifting and variation in not so much tempo, but in like sort of the ideas in certain sections, which is kind of interesting.
Right. Sonic music is great because like I'll use some Sonic music to showcase like the connectivity between pieces of music that already exist. Like there's this one piece of music, Spain, that everybody really seems to like off of Chick Corea's Return to Forever project, off of like Light as a Feather. The melody is like ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, ba-ba-na-na-na-na-na-na, and you could go into ba-na-na-na, ba-na-na-na-na-na-na. You can go into Aquatic Ruin Zone from Sonic 2. And it's the same song. Like there's just so many things that mix together like that are like one thing existed before the other. Like, you know, people are like, wait, the Super Mario theme is just Sister Marion by T-Square? It's like, yes, these things exist. Like, there's a whole thing that you could do, like a whole video down the line where you could just talk about like jazz, like, or jazz fusion and how it influenced like video games in the late 80s and early 90s, because those guys that were developing those pieces of music for those games grew up listening to jazz fusion. Because that was like the huge thing at the time.
There's already a video out there. I think.
Of course. I'm sure Adam Neely's on it.
Yeah,
it
was Adam Neely actually. Yeah. I'm almost 100% positive. Yeah.
And like I love that guy. He's great because he's keeping the academic scene alive. You know, inspiring the next in line. But I think that something like this, it's not taking from one thing, it's taking from I'm going to use the word that I use all the time, it's taking from a colloquialism. It's taking from a jazz and blues colloquialism where it's like, surprise, you want to add like a really cool melody over this. it's what they were doing in classical music. Why do we use circle of fifths chord progressions? We use these circle of fifths chord progressions initially as a means to modulate. Because when you got to the chord that you wanted to stop on in the circle of fifths chord progression, that was your new key. Or you could stop at a chord and be like, right, now we're implementing secondary dominance. We're going to turn this chord into a dominant 7 chord, and now that's the new 5, and we're going to modulate up to our new 1. Circle of fifths is just, it's a really easy way to get people comfortably lulled into a new key, or comfortably to get them to pass through a section comfortably and more intricately, rather than direct modulation, which is what we've been hearing, which is like, oh god,
key change,
key change, right. Mood change, vibe change.
Well, and the circle of fifths thing is so interesting because it basically sounds like magic, but when you actually sit down and take a look at how each thing is individually blocked off, and the fact that you're right, it becomes, you know, the dominant, the tonic shifts to the dominant, and then all of a sudden you're in a new key, and then you go to the new tonic.
Up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fifth, down a fourth. Like, you know, and the thing too with fourths and fifths is that you can do it either way, because those two are inverse of each other. Right. So if you want to go up a fifth and then down a fourth, now you went up a fifth and now you're at 2. And then if you go up another fifth, now you're at what? 7. And then you go back down and now you're at 3. And it's just, you're going through this. These are sequential elements, right? Like everything that I just said, like in terms of those numbers, was probably wrong. I'd have to like sit and play it, or you know. Like,
but the point is that most people don't even
don't think about this.
Colloquialism, meaning that like these are things that people hear all the time,
right?
But like we're able to implement it in a way.
Yeah, and so something like this is extremely important in terms of thematics. It's as important as you going to, like, you know, rewatch Star Wars through the lens of like, how many boxes are we going to check off for understanding the hero's journey? How many of these things are we gonna recognize upon viewing this movie or something? It's like that with music too. It's like, oh, like, have we gone through a circle of fifths sequence yet? Like, have we sequenced? Have we cadenced? How was the cadence? Was it a deceptive one? Did we end on 5 or 1? You know, it's like, those things are, to me, I don't know. I find that having that knowledge now is beneficial.
It helps you.
It's more helpful.
See, I personally stay as far away as I can from that shit. But that's how I felt when I was in school anyway. Yeah, I failed theory my first year because I was like, man, really? I don't want to do any of this. I don't care about the circle of fifths. I just want to sing. Yes. I just want to make music.
For me, I definitely had my ups and downs, and I struggled with vocal health. I had to leave my I was in music education voice, and I had to leave. Because I couldn't get better. I had like the equivalent of like kennel cough. It was terrible. You move into a dorm and you're just like all the time. Like, good luck singing. Not to mention the fact that, like, not to naysay the vocal faculty at the time, but you know, they kept on referring to me as a lazy tenor, and it's like, dude, I don't have facial hair yet.
Classic, but that's because you were a baritone with high notes.
Yeah, and they were like, yeah, we could train this, and I'm like, bitch. Puberty is coming, bro.
I'm 18.
Like, I'm like a couple of years behind everybody. You know, this is ridiculous. And so, you know, I found that there were just a lot of things that helped me gravitate towards how I wanted to interpret getting my degree. So, like, I don't have like a music ed degree or even a music performance degree. I have a BA in music, and I just like nose to the grindstone all the time, making sure that I'm studying, making sure that I'm revisiting my books, like revisiting the library that I have, which is woefully outdated at this point. But you know, I think as long as you receive that knowledge, that initial knowledge, and then you know where to look, and you know how to educate. You were educated, and now you know how to educate yourself, and therefore educate others.
And by educating others, you're also educating yourself.
Dude, I learn more from my students than I've learned from any single person.
I mean, classic. All teachers say that. Yeah. It's such a fact.
Well, all good teachers.
All good teachers. Fair.
My students I couldn't possibly learn from my students. That's a bad teacher. Get the send him back. You know,
send him away
to school. Yeah.
I know you mentioned Lisa. Let's check out Lisa. This is from Lisa the Joyful. So.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure this is
not Lisa the Painful.
Not the Painful. This is the one where they reference the Shenmue moans, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah.
This is a Work Harder. Yeah. I gotta stop doing these videos, man. It's too much.
Stupid. But it's awesome.
It is awesome, isn't it? I mean, it's just like sampling
it's
something
definitely
so
not
absurd.
like I don't want the composer of that to be like, he called my music stupid. It's just it's goofy.
No,
like
it's goofy. Of course, it's goofy. I mean, like reasonably so.
Yeah. I love how they took that. So that grunt is from Shenmue.
Apparently, yeah.
And then and so then they just corrupted. They turned it into. To me, that whole thing is like percussive until you get into the like when it starts to be high enough to have a pitch. I lost it at that. just getting higher and higher. There's like a whole subset of memes where like you take a stupid thing that happens and then you just speed it up, and then you speed it up. And then and it just gets more and more ridiculous. And me and my subgroup of friends all make references to this exact meme, but like with something that somebody has said in the conversation. Like we'll just start repeating that thing that person just said and just keep speeding it up. It's just we're cooked, we're fried completely. This song is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Actually, in terms of like emotional experience, it's actually without getting me like, whoa, let me put on my deep hat.
There's no thinking cap here.
I don't think it's that
There's
deep.
None.
But I do think that it's like kind of like a workman's song, like almost like climbing something, or like navigating something really difficult.
It's got this hip hop element to it.
Even though it's this like. It definitely feels like it's like expressing some sort of adversity somehow.
You know what it is? That thing, it sounds like a James Brown grunt.
Yeah, it's true.
It just sounds it sounds like if this was a deep cut off of like The Big Payback.
I mean, realistically, why not?
I mean, it just feels that way.
Yeah.
I felt like he was going to tell a story about like revenge, like he was just
how
going to
difficult
go into
his life is.
Revenge plot about why you should never fuck with him or his money,
right?
And but it was just for the whole piece,
the whole time. Well, listen, a grunt can tell many things. Where does this rank for you in like the weird scale?
It's just not weird at all. It's just funny. It's not weird
fair.
at all for me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Meanwhile, I'm like absolutely a 10. Like that's a 10 for me. So it's a 0 for you. That's normal.
I think like for me, just because it's easily followable. There's only 2 sections.
Yeah.
Maybe 3, and it's in 4/4 the whole time. I would say like maybe a 4. 3 or 4.
Okay, so we're at 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. All right, I respect that.
It's fine. It had to happen at some point.
It did have to happen.
Now, when I'm in my car, today. I have to add this song to my list of.
That's
of,
right. You're
I'm in traffic. Now you have to listen to this with me.
Well, Chuck, I think that's a pretty good place to stop. We didn't get to a ton of pieces, but I do think that we definitely had some really good discussions about like the ins and outs of music and stuff, which I think I think ultimately weird songs don't necessarily mean bad songs. And I think that that's a really important delineation that people should know, is that, something can be slightly off the beaten path and not necessarily bad. Definitely quirky, and definitely at the very least will make you think, which I do think is an important element of this stuff. So, it's cool.
It's important to remind people that are like watching, that are makers, that you need to recognize that like there is no one way to do something. Like it's not a good way to think. Like if you want to, take the musical colloquialism, right, and then corrupt it in some way, like the Sonic piece did, like highly palatable musical ideas and themes that are happening in that piece of music that make it easily, like a listener can be easily grounded in that piece. And then if you just take a couple of weird sound effects and throw them in percussively, now it becomes a weird piece of music. It was a weird choice. Don't abandon ambition when you're trying to be a little weird with music. Nobody's judging you.
Just lean in.
I've always been such a huge supporter of get out of your own way. I think that's like something that a lot of people our age have grown into. Just like we went through our second guessing early, and then like I don't know, I turned 30 and I was like, fuck it, I don't care, I'm gonna do whatever. I'm gonna do whatever 100%. Makes sense to me in the moment. And I think that you said it before, lean in, get weird with it, and then maybe Marco will review one of your songs.
I mean, but that's the best thing. Like, imagine taking a classical piece like a Bach or something, and then just flipping it on its head and like going in a totally different direction. Or even if it's just adding EDM to it, like just go buck wild.
I mean, have you ever listened to Switched on Bach? You ever hear that stuff before?
No.
Switched on Bach is like Bach pieces that are performed like through a Moog synth.
Oh, I want to check that out.
And it's dope. So many people were completely enamored and enthralled by that one weird, it's like a ribbon synthesizer where this guy is like playing these keys and then you can slide on these, but you've definitely seen it. It became a TikTok sound for a while that everybody was using. Classic. And it's just the most somber, sad music ever. And it's a weird instrument, and the access to that instrument is non-existent. If you want that instrument, you have to like go and have somebody build it for you in like some Eastern European country or Germany or somewhere, and like it has to be a person that holds those keys, like has the schematic and has the materials to do it. These things, these weird oddities are literally the things that stick out. Like case in point, one of the best soundtracks of all time in my mind, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Great soundtrack. Why would you pick an ocarina? Right. Maybe the music was written, it was put into MIDI, and they were experimenting with it. And Koji Kondo was like, yeah, check out this ocarina sound. It's really cool. They're like, whoa. It was Flute of Time, but now we're going to change it to Ocarina of Time. Like maybe the music, like the sound choices is what dictated what.
And what a colossal change to feature the ocarina versus the Flute of Time. I never even thought about that.
Or it could have been something
the guitar
else.
of time.
Music was already pretty important in the Zelda series, but that game really took it off.
1,000,000%.
Allowed it to take off. So just like making ambitious decisions. Not second guessing,
because you'll land where you're going to land anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, like what's the alternative?
Be a homogenous.
Don't do like the weird
and...
thing. Don't like be adventurous or ambitious at all. Yeah. And then what?
Yeah.
What happens? Nothing.
Well, thanks, Chuck. I appreciate it a ton. Thanks for coming on and listening to some of these weird tracks. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We're still working our way. I'm still working my way as well through the weird songs. Keep them coming. Love seeing this stuff. Love listening to this stuff. And I appreciate it. And we'll see you later. See you, everybody. Bye.